Hi again, people. Day 12 of the case. Should be interesting. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so this is the witness. I already watched his testimony. It's kind of short, but this is the witness that supposedly saw the body. And she mentioned it in a car that I just saw something dark, but they were all drunk, very drunk, driving home after a night of drinking at 2 a.m. The snow was coming down. I believe this witness. She was drunk, and I don't think it's a big cover-up. But the defense kind of attacks her real quickly here and tries to make a point, and I'm not sure he makes the point. Here we go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
A few questions for you. In regard to...
And I have to say, this woman looks very nervous, uneasy, admitted she drank a lot, seems, I don't want to say weak, but very out of her comfort zone here. And to attack somebody like that, again, we're creating more victims, and it might play with the jury that she's being victimized just because she saw something out the window. I think the defense is attacking her too hard, but in the defense's mind, it's like, you did this! Isn't it true? This is the first time, no further questions. You're going to see how they kind of do this. And it's a Perry Mason moment or a big law moment that's really cool. I don't think it's that cool. I think it's kind of bullshit. But here we go.
To the interview or the conversation that you had with Trooper Proctor, were there any other troopers present during the course of that conversation?
Yes.
Do you recall who that trooper was?
I can't recall his name, no.
Now, if I could turn your attention back to January 29th in the early morning when you were leaving the house on Fair. You indicated that you saw a dark object in an area of the front lawn, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you had been to the house at 34th Fairview on several different occasions prior to this date, correct?
Yes.
Ever been over in that area of that front lawn? Was that an area that was used, that you observed by the homeowners or anyone there?
Not really. No.
And what, if anything, do you recall about the lighting in that particular area of the yard?
I mean, it was dark out, but with the snow, it was kind of, you could see a little bit of a glare.
Do you recall any sort of street lights or anything like that in that area?
I can't recall, no.
Now, you see this object, which you described as approximately 5 to 6 feet long, is that right?
Yes.
I've got this on 1.5 times play, so I should probably I'll put it on 125, because when I watch it faster, I pick up more body language that really makes it stick out, and maybe that's not fair. I'm just trying to get through this quicker.
That's correct.
And in the area of the flagpole, is that correct?
Yes.
And at the time that you saw it, were you expecting or anticipating something over in that area of the yard?
No.
And when you were driving past it, is that the first time that you saw it?
Yes.
Now, if you had realized or had recognized that dark object 5 to 6 feet long in that area near the flagpole, had you realized that was a body, what would you have done?
I'll allow it. I would have, called 911 if I thought it was an actual body, and told everybody else in the car as well.
Me. Okay? They're trying to make it like she's part of this conspiracy or she's making it up. Because if the body was there, it hurts the defense. So the defense really wants to discredit her and make the jury say she's lying. She's covering up. She's part of the big conspiracy. The family got together. This woman couldn't conspire or hold. I mean, she's a nervous wreck on a stand. She's jittery. She's breathing hard. Her whole demeanor is very, very uncomfortable. I think any grilling she would fold. I would not want her as my big co-conspirator to hold her mud when shit got bad. But that's what they want to paint, that she's all involved and all in, and it's all her protecting this family. I don't believe that. I think she's embarrassed, and she's answering as truthfully as she can, and this sucks, and she hates it, but she's doing the best she can. That's what I see.
And your testimony again was that you put sort of 2 and 2 together the following day, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so he said, again, to the next day you put it all together. That's reasonable. I saw something dark. The next day, they found a body in the yard, and it's like, holy shit, I was drunk. I bet you that was what I saw when I saw something dark. Oh my God. So there's probably a little bit of survivor's guilt on her part. What if I'd called the cops? What if I had recognized it? What if I hadn't been so drunk? I could have saved this guy's life. Maybe he's dead because of me. Because people do that when they're involved closely. It's easy for us to be disconnected, watch, and talk, and blame, and blah, 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 and judge. But when you're connected close, those things affect you. So I'm sure she's sad that she didn't say there was a body. It's not that I'm covering up and I have to say that I saw something in order to help this family because they're all good and they're all cops and we have to complete the conspiracy and I want to send this innocent woman to jail who didn't do anything, but I have to because I like this family. Come on.
Okay.
And that's because you would have realized that was very body. You would have called 911, correct?
Yes.
And that's because you would have realized that was very important information, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
If you realized it was a body, you would have realized that was very important information, correct?
Yes.
And your testimony today is that you realized it was a body the very next day, correct?
The next day after I had a conversation, yes.
You didn't call 911 at that point, correct?
I did not know.
Who thinks that's a big man? He got her. Because she said she would have called 911. She saw it last night, but she didn't call 911 next day. He got her, man. She's lying. Why would she call 911? The whole family knew. The family told her there was a body. The cops are there. They're searching. As soon as the body was found, the cops were called. She found out after the cops were called and already there. Why would she call 911? That doesn't sound reasonable. Had the prosecution, I'd have came back. I would have said, I have a follow-up question. Isn't it true that you didn't call 911 the next day because you already knew the police were there? Yes. That would have cleaned up this big, flashy finish by this defense that they're about to do. But because the prosecution did not come back and did not clean it up, the prosecution fucked up. So I'm not saying this whole government, city, everybody is incompetent, but this is really letting this witness down and the jury down. Because there may be somebody in the jury is thinking like, man, that sure does seem suspicious. She said she would have called it. She's probably lying because she just said that. But when she found out there was a body, she didn't call. Therefore, she must be lying. But if the prosecution would come back and go, isn't it true you didn't call 911 the next day because you already knew the cops were there and there would be no point in calling 911? They didn't do that. And that's sad for her, the judge, the whole justice system, that one little not redirect.
You call the police business line.
I did not know.
Did you speak to any police?
No.
Right. And you would agree with me, Ms. Nagel, that object became 5 to 6 feet long yesterday for the first time.
Objection.
Ask the question differently, Ms. Tinetti.
The first time you've mentioned to anybody that that object was 5 to 6 feet long was yesterday to this jury 2.5 years after you supposedly saw it, correct?
Yes.
Nothing.
I mean, it's true that nobody ever asked her how long it was or how big it was. She just said she saw something black in the snow, and it was a shitty investigation. And that's a huge lead that I would want to get with her. What did you do? Where were you seated? Who else saw it? What did you say? What was the response? Did you think about it later? And the next day, why didn't you contact us? Why? I mean, all that should have been covered, but obviously it wasn't because the prosecution didn't cover it up. So he gets his big finish. It's the first time you said, and what he's referring to, if you watched the video the other day, they ask her, when you saw the black object, how big was it? Because the cops did a shitty investigation. They never asked. So the DA just kind of thought that might be important on the stand. And she goes, I don't know, 5 or 6 foot. The prosecution or the defense is making out she lied and made that number up. I would argue that because she now knows that it was a body, and she knows how tall he was and was drinking with him, or they were drinking together, or knew, or she saw the video or whatever, her subconsciously she connected that that body was pretty large. And now 2 years later, when she was asked, she was like, I'd probably say it was 5 or 6 feet long because I know it was the body and I know that's how tall he was. Is she lying to further a conspiracy? Did she just put it together? I mean, it may sound like I'm defending her and taking her side, but it's just, I just think people are human. Sometimes they make honest mistakes or stupid mistakes, or I don't think that every time somebody makes a mistake, there's a big conspiracy behind that mistake. So that was the end of it. The prosecution, I think, now says I have no further questions. Missed opportunity. I absolutely think the prosecution should have came back and cleared that up.
Thank you.
But they didn't. All right, here we go. Okay, day 12. This is a lady who is a forensic scientist who did the DNA test from a swab they sent about the dog to see if there was dog on the victim's shirt. So the cop that was dead, the big theory the defense is throwing out is the dog attacked it, the dog did it, it scratched him, etc. So the state police took a swab from the shirt, from a tear on the shirt, and swabbed it and sent it to the lab. The lab said there was no canine DNA. The defense attacked her and said, well, if it wasn't collected properly, you wouldn't find it, right? And since there was inhibitors of the stain on the shirt and possibly collection, you wouldn't have found it. And they tested for 2 types of DNA, nuclear and mitochondria. And I guess mitochondria is, there's a lot more of it. And they did not find any dog DNA on either one. But the nuclear one, because it's really specific, it's much more sensitive. The defense wants to concentrate on the nuclear. This witness was a very good witness. I liked her testimony. She was very clear. She spoke to the jury. If you want to watch a good expert witness speaking to the jury and explaining things in terms that the normal layperson can understand, she would be good to watch her testimony. Day 12 of testimony on her case. Did it help or hurt? They took one swab from one shirt and they found no dog DNA. Does that prove the dog didn't do it? No. Does it prove the dog did it because they only took one swab? No. To me, this was smoke and mirrors and really not that big of a deal. But she was a good witness. This witness was interesting. He drove to pick up his sister from the house in question where the murder happened. And he actually saw, or appears to see, we don't have a license plate, etc., but he says a black SUV with a woman inside. So we can put the general time that the SUV was in front of the house. And that's basically all he did. The thing the defense tried to do is say he changed his testimony from when he talked to the cops, which they always try to do. And they tried to say that he looked in a car and she was by herself, which may put in the jury's mind, see, the dead guy was inside the house because he wasn't in the car. This guy was driving by. He's looking at his sister go in a house, and he remembers there's an SUV there, and he sees a girl in the front seat because the dome light's on, which to me would indicate a door open, and they brought that up. When you open the door for your sister to get in and give her a ride, the dome light came on. And you said the dome light was on in that car. Could she have been parked and turned on the dome light? Yeah. Could he have been getting out of the car? Maybe. Could he have been laying down in the car because he was tired of arguing? Maybe. Could he have been gone and inside the house? Maybe. But everybody's lying then that was in a house, and when they said he never entered the house. So from this witness, he didn't do much but corroborate that her car was there. He saw a woman driving it, which puts her as the driver, and that for the defense, maybe she was by herself. Not a whole bunch of revelation on this one. I thought he was a good guy. He was out drinking, partying. He went to go pick up his sister, was going to give her a ride. She decided to stay, and he left. Nothing revelation here that, oh my God, I was wrong. It's a conspiracy. So that's my take on him. Oh, this was a good witness for the prosecution. So the guy before this was in the car with her and her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was driving them to go to the house, and they saw the SUV with the suspect driving the car. So we doubly confirmed almost, not license plates, make, model, but the time frame, it was her in the SUV, and they both saw her. This girl said when they turned in front of them, she saw a man and a woman in the car. The other guy said he can't remember. He saw two people, or he can't remember. She remembered seeing a man and a woman in the car before them because they flashed their lights and they turned and they let them go first, and then they ended up at the same house that they were going to. So I thought the prosecution was going to blow this. She saw two people in the car, and then the defense came back and go, when you drove by, you only saw one person, right? So you didn't see a second person in the car when you drove by because they were looking and driving. That's reasonable. And I was like, oh my God, if the prosecution does not come back and say, obviously you would have seen a large man walk to the house while you were behind him if somebody went out. Because the defense wanted to plant the seed. He wasn't in the car. My client was there, but she dropped him off and he went in the house, and that's where he was killed, and then they dragged him out. But the first witness left that doubt. She took away that doubt. So this witness, in my book, was a win for the prosecution, and the defense is like crap. All right? She was a pretty good little witness. Honest. Good. Okay, this witness is the driver that drove the previous witness, his girlfriend, and the previous witness, his friend, to pick up his friend's sister at the place. They saw the SUV. This guy witness was a nothing. He wasn't paying attention. His testimony was a little inconsistent from the other two. The girl said they talked through the window. He said they talked through the window. The guy said that they cracked the door and talked through the door. Really irrelevant. He was there. The SUV was in front. They pretty much conceded that their client was at the vehicle at the house. What they're trying to throw doubt, the defense, is nobody but the girl saw a guy in that car. A do-nothing witness, waste of time. The defense is getting really almost clownish in their think they're making these big points with these stupid, redundant questions that prove absolutely nothing. And I just can't imagine the jury is like, this defense team's pissing me off. They're wasting everybody's time. Move on. All right. Next witness. This witness is Allison McCabe. She's the daughter of Matt and Jen. That's the owner of the house. I think that's the owner of the house. She's one of the co-conspirators. She's the one that's all the conspiracy people. She's lying for her parents and her dad and the other people that beat and killed up this guy and drug him to their front yard. She's such a bad person. She's a sophomore in college. And that night when she was driving with her friends, they saw a dog in the street and it was going to snow and they knew a storm was coming in. So they stopped, picked up the dog, brought it to the police station, located the owner, and then took the dog to the owner. And these are the type of people you got to watch for, people. I mean, now she's lying for her parents. They killed somebody in their basement. They sold their home. They got rid of their dog, and they got a new phone. And now they got their daughter on a stand covering up the big murder. I really feel sad for these kids because they are, I mean, this is a good, you can just tell by her testimony, she's a really nice person. And I'm waiting for the defense. They just broke for lunch, so the defense is going to get her after lunch, and it should be interesting. If he attacks her, he's a dumbass. They may make the woman interview her so it doesn't look like they're attacking this sweet little girl because she saved a dog. But we'll see. All right? See you again after lunch here. So this was interesting. This girl, before the defense talked to her, they had a hearing to ask her questions out of the presence of the jury. So the jury wasn't there, and the defense asked her questions. And his questions were basically educating her on how to change the date on a picture and how to delete a text message. And he was implying that she took a screenshot of a text message, but she could have deleted part of the text message before she took the screenshot. And so he kind of asked her much questions, which I'm not really sure what he was looking for, but he mentioned this is the first time I've heard the federal grand jury that's going on. It's unclear on what's going on with the federal grand jury, whether or not they're investigating the DA, whether they're investigating somebody from the police department, or this investigation. There's all kind of crazy talk out there that this investigation if this investigation was really about the DA and all that, they would be holding this trial. The judge would give would extend the trial date until this federal grand jury was over. And since she didn't do that, my guess is it's not going to impugn the DA's office of the prosecution. It may attack one of the attorneys. It may be in response to the chief of a police or the sheriff or a politician. If the FBI is involved, I have no idea what the hell they're looking at. And everybody's like speculating. Now, so this is the first time out of the presence of the jury that I heard him talk about the grand jury in this courtroom. Every other time it's always been, you testified at another hearing, didn't you? But it wasn't the first grand jury and it wasn't this hearing. And it's creating this, the jury in the jury's mind. What are they talking about? What do we don't know? What are we talking about? Now, supposedly in a couple of weeks, the FBI is going to release something and they're going to be able to interject it and inform the jury and give the information that the grand jury gives them to the jury. But we'll see if that happens. So now they're going to get in all this tech stuff with her, and this is the warning she gives the jury.
You must find first
that it is more likely true than not that the person who authored or sent the communication was in fact either Colin Albert or Ms. Allie McCabe.
Because of the way this is going on and because of the questions out of the jury, I'm assuming the defense is now saying, and his questions to her are kind of related to that, when you send a message, you don't really know if the person on the other end is who you're sending it to. And you don't know when they send you a message that it was really from them. And she's like, well, it's his number and I've had it for 3 years. And so, again, this seems like more defense, throw bullshit against the wall, see what sticks, but we'll see how it plays out here.
If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that Ms. McCabe or Mr. Albert was the person who authored or created or transmitted the electronic communication, then you cannot consider that communication in your deliberations. So with that, Mr. Lally?
Thank you. And Your Honor.
Watch this and I'll give you a recap. Okay, so this girl was a very credible, good witness. He got into a little bit of this 100Me or 101, some way their parents use an app to track them, like when they're at school or when they're at home, so they can find them. There's 103 app or whatever the hell he's talking about. I have no clue what this app is. But evidently he pulled some records and he tried to say that she was driving to the high school at 1:30 at night after she went home and was in bed. And she said it didn't happen and the judge let it in. I was really confused on why all that was going in. But because the defense kept bringing up this guy that wasn't in the house and this picture that she took and that possibly he insinuated she changed the date, the judge let in the prosecution to ask her questions about the harassment.
Oh, I'm sorry. You went. Sorry. May I approach?
Yes.
Didn't leave there?
Objection.
High school?
1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds.
And what time did it say I arrived at high school?
The high school was 1:28 and 8 seconds.
It wouldn't have taken me 2 minutes to go from the high school to my house.
She isn't argumentative. She's not trying to hide her answers. She's a really good witness. So it got into, at one point she answered, it wasn't relevant because the defense is really capitalizing on the incompetence of this investigation, that it took them a year and a half to start contacting all these potential witnesses, which is why it's so critical when you're doing a homicide. Every little, and I've said this, if you watch some of my other videos, I talk about homicide investigations, I talk about things that we're involved in, every little receipt, Cheeto on the floor, everything matters when you're doing a homicide investigation. And in this case, this is why, because a year and a half later, they had to go back and try and find all the phones, all the witnesses, who was in the house. As soon as they heard what defense was saying, and defense picked this because they know they didn't do it. So they really just turned on this family. And I think it's really like unfortunate and mean. That there may be some evil people in her family and there may be some wrongdoing. I don't know. But my impression of her mom, dad, family, brother, sister, you know, they got a nephew, their cousin, they're a tight-knit family. They're having a party for a Marine that's coming back. They just seem like pretty damn decent people. And this has caused them hate and harassment to where you can't even understand it. And the judge let it in, and normally they don't let the jury see this. So I thought this was interesting.
Colin Albert being in the house at that time, what, if any, harassment was there in relation to that and in relation to Colin?
Well,
No, go ahead, she can answer.
Colin wasn't at the house, so he's being harassed for. He was not at the house when John was there, so I drove him home. So the people are harassing him, saying he was at the house when it's not true.
She's talking awful messages. There's things like, you know, I mean, I get a lot of this shit just because of my videos. You know, I wish you were dead. I hope you get cancer. You know, the one girl that called the FBI on me and said I was going to shoot up the school and kill her kids. I mean, it's just crazy what people do. You know, other people, they call the SWAT team and say, hey, somebody's there screaming, send a SWAT team, and people end up dead. People are evil. And when you're attacking a young girl who's just kind of getting out of high school and at the beginning, words hurt, and it's really sad.
No, the door's been opened. I'm allowing it.
Well, basically harassment.
And harassment by whom?
Bloggers, people online.
And what, if anything, in relation to Colin Albert being in the house has occurred as far as the harassment that you're talking about?
Can you rephrase?
With reference to what you were talking about as far as the relevancy of Colin Albert being in the house at that time, what, if any, harassment was there in relation to that and in relation to Colin?
Well,
No, go ahead, she can answer.
Colin wasn't at the house, so he's being harassed for. He was not at the house when John was there, so I drove him home. So the people are harassing him, saying he was at the house when it's not true.
When you speak about harassment, what specifically type of harassment are we
Constant phone calls, emails, awful messages.
I'll allow it.
Focus on this witness, not Colin Albert at this point.
As far as you and your family, what, if any, type of harassment have you received?
People showing up at our house, people emailing my school, just like a lot of harassment. Can I have a moment, please?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have some, thank you.
And how long a period of time has that persisted for?
Very long time.
Thank you. I have no further.
All right, Ms. McCabe, you're
So the defense did not want to follow that. The last thing the defense wants to do is jump on this girl after all that and then try to be a tough guy. So the defense didn't have any more questions. So that was the end of her testimony. Okay, so this was the last witness for day 12 of the trial. He's the guy that the other girl was texting and said, come get me, and she picked him up, and they were trying to say that she changed the dates, but they introduced screenshots of his phone, which is the same on her phone. So now the defense is going to have to say they both changed it. The defense didn't have a bite on him today, so tomorrow they will probably interview him on day 13. All right, so that's the recap of the trial on 12th. I still haven't seen anything that makes me believe more in the conspiracy. And I'm not real sure anything that makes Karen Reed more guilty, but just kind of a lot of foundation on who was there, what the players, where they were, their phones, their times, their statements. It's an awful lot of lies to keep up with if all these people killed this dude and drug him out in the lawn. But anyway, we'll end that there. Y'all have a good one.